6:04 p.m. 6:04 p.m. We'll call this meeting to order. Welcome everyone. Thank you everyone for joining for this special meeting tonight. We're going to kick off real quick with starting with roll call. So I'll just go through and call first names. So if you can take yourself off mute, and we'll kick it off with that. So first up, I have Rita.
Present.
Thank you. Aaron. Let's see.
I'm present.
Oh, awesome. Angela.
Present.
Wonderful. Oops, hold on. I've got Angela Griffin. No worries. Anu.
I think Anu's excused today.
Okay, awesome. And then I've got no Ariana tonight, is excused. Bethany. All right, Carol. And we have Charmaine and Cindy are both excused. How about Debbie? I see you out there.
Hi, I'm here.
Thank you. Donald Felder. All right, Dwayne.
I think Dwayne's going to attend by phone and he's not here yet.
Okay, sounds good. Eden. Gracie, see you there.
Here.
Thank you. Helena. Jack, see you out there.
Present.
Thank you, sir. Jackie. Oh, Jackie's coming in a little bit late. She's finishing up another board meeting there. Jasmine.
I'm here. I'm going to be driving soon, so I do have my camera off.
Sounds good. And Jerry?
Jerry is having problems logging on. So but he will be here as soon as he can.
All right. Got Jessica.
I'm here.
Thank you. And then we have, oops, hold on. Lydia.
Yes, here.
Thank you. And I'm here, Lisa Sturgis. Mina.
I'm here.
Thank you. Nicole. And Suzette. And how about Yedidia?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. And Yolanda. I know you're here, but I need you to say
Here.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Do we have any guests present? If you are a guest joining, please go ahead and announce yourself.
Hi. Go, Tia.
I'm Tia Yarbrough, King County Policy Lead for the Youth Action Plan.
Thank you.
I'm
Any
Carol
other
on the
guests?
CYAB.
Carol?
Mm-hmm.
I've got you.
Doing
You're
late,
Carol
sorry.
Gertzel?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you.
I think Eden is also trying to join, but there's trouble logging into.
Who's that for Eden?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, Jerry is having problems too. It's the same link for everybody, so I'm not sure what's going on, but I would recommend that they try restarting their computer and see if that works. Yeah, Jerry also can't get on, and everyone got the same email. It's the same link. Should be.
The one in the meeting request works. The one in the email that you sent me to join early did not work. So I went to the meeting request and that one worked.
Okay, I'll tell them to do that.
Yeah,
okay.
That's cool.
That might be what's wrong. It's funny because it's copied from the same place, but that's okay. Meeting.
I think we've got everybody else.
I'm also a guest, by the way. I'm Sound City's policy analyst, AJ Foltz, just letting you know.
Oh, great. Thank you, AJ.
And Angela Fan?
Yep. And then Angela Fan, I'm a guest too tonight.
Angela's one of our, welcome Angela. Angela's one of our folks that is up for appointment, and those appointments are supposed to go through any day now. So we're super excited to see that happen. So welcome, Angela.
Awesome. And then Eden, I see you on there. Thank you so much. You got in okay?
Yeah, sorry, I was struggling.
Nope, that's okay. All right. So I think I've got everybody else for now. Should we wait till a few more people pop in, Carrie, or are we good to keep moving?
Yep, keep moving. I'm taking care of the other folks. There's a few, so I got it. Thank you.
Okay, wonderful. The main topics for the agenda tonight, of course, is the going over the overview of the King County Youth Action Plan and update. So Jessica's going to be walking us through that. And I think before we get started, before I turn it over to Jessica, we'll have just a couple of housekeeping items at the end for board business. But I do need to call for any public comment. All right, sounds good. So Jessica, I'll go ahead and turn it over to you to walk us through the action plan update. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you, Lisa. And Tia, actually, my partner at the county, is going to get us started. But just as a quick introduction, just a reminder that I serve on the Children and Youth Advisory Board, but have also begun my own consulting practice. So I'm working as a consultant on the Youth Action Plan update. So here tonight, I really am a consultant working on the Youth Action Plan update, and would step back from any votes or things on the Youth Action Plan at the moment. And really the meeting tonight is intended to give you all a better, deeper orientation to where we are in the process on the Youth Action Plan, our preliminary recommendations, and to use the time tonight to share background stuff. So next week at the in-person retreat, y'all can really dive in with the kind of orientation to the meat. So we can spend the time next week together really looking and getting feedback from you all about what we've kind of uncovered so far as preliminary recommendations on the Youth Action Plan update. And for those folks that aren't here tonight, the hope is that you will be watching this and see it in advance of the retreat next Tuesday. So this will be sent out to everyone in advance of the retreat. You'll have a little bit of time to review some things, so it's not totally overwhelming next Tuesday. So that's the intent of us having this special meeting. So thanks for making the time as you've been able to. I'm going to start sharing my screen and give it to Tia to get us launched.
Great. Thank you, Jessica, for giving that overview. Good evening. Like I shared a bit ago, I'm Tia Yarbrough, and I'm one of the PPM4s, or policy lead for the Youth Action Plan. And so tonight, again, like Jessica said, I wanted to reiterate that this is basically an overview and an update. We get a chance to remind you of the Youth Action Plan and the work that we've been undergoing for the last year and a half or so, and also to just get you acclimated for the retreat and the time that we'll spend together in a week from now. And so we can get going.
Confirming you can see my screen.
Yes,
you can see the slides. Okay, thank you.
Perfect. Great. And so, so the Youth Action Plan is the county's explicit commitment to healthy, thriving children, youth, and families. Again, it was requested by the Children Youth Advisory Board, and it was also confirmed with our executive and approved with the CYAB, you all, with our Children, Youth, and Young Adult Division as well, to collaborate and lead this effort. As you know, the CYAB is the governing body for the Youth Action Plan. And so the goal is to keep our attention focused on the holistic needs of children and youth, and to ensure that we are leading this implementation and the review and the update of this policy frame. And also it lays out intentions for how the county should work on behalf of children, youth, and families in areas of opportunity and concern. And so it's important that we reiterate that. The YAP is not a funding stream. It provides a policy frame for the county's support of children, youth, and family, although there is funding through levies that is a part of the general fund that helps to to help ensure that programming happens and initiatives are seen through, but it is not a funding stream. And so it's important that we wanted to amplify that and ensure that that we are able to reiterate that this is a policy frame. And that it ensures that we are accountable, King County that does, and that it is integral when we say what we're going to do for children, youth, and family, that we follow through and see that to its end. We can go to the next slide. So the YAP update process, this is just a timeline giving you a sense of where we have been using our efforts and the time Jessica and I have spent together really going out and really seeing this process through. And so you can see 1 through 9 is our basically the steps that we've taken, the journey that we've been on. So the CYAB, you all wrote a letter to the executive requesting an update in the spring of 23. And then executive signed it. I'm not going to read these to you, but again, this is a slide that gives you a timeline of where we are. The highlighted numbers are where we are at today. And so we've synthesized this information with our time going out, looking at emergent themes. And then today we're bringing the recommendations to you for a review. And to also have a chance for you to look at feedback and to do a final check. That'll be the next step in this process, and then really finalizing the YAP update with the approval by the CYAB at the November meeting. And so we're excited to show you the work that's been underway since the last time we've been here. And so we can go to the next slide. I'll kick it to you, Jess. It's time.
All right. Thank you, Tia. Yeah, so tonight, just a kind of preview, but for the retreat is where really we'll have all of you dig in to really give us some feedback. So just want to prep that this is kind of an overview versus needing to absorb everything tonight. Next week is where we'll start doing that more deeply. Some of you that haven't been on the CYAB for too long might be less indoctrinated into this, but the YAP is really, the youth action plans really are guiding policy frame for the Children and Youth Advisory Board. So it started in 2014. There was an ordinance calling for the youth action plan. At that point, there was very little invested in programs that were more kind of positive youth development, promotive, preventive sorts of programs and activities from the county. So the majority of the work that the county was doing at that time had to do with supporting behavioral health, some work around GEDs and education, and then work around the jails and justice system. So since that time, a lot has changed, and a lot of that is because the youth action plan existed that laid out the aspirations for the county. So in 2014, there was a task force of 25 community leaders that came together, input from youth and families, community members, to develop this set of 9 recommendation areas. So social justice and equity, strengthening and stabilizing families and children, and youth and young adults, stopping the school to prison pipeline, busting silos, we're better together. So really thinking about how does the county partner with other organizations, institutions, as well as get better at partnering across internal county departments, getting smart about data, investing early, investing often, and investing in outcomes. At this time in 2014, 2015, when the YAP was developed, it was before Best Starts for Kids. The Veterans and Human Services Levy existed. The mental illness and drug dependency or mid levy existed. So there was some talk of like shifting those dollars. Best Starts came on board and has really been able to complement those dollars and be about happy, healthy, safe and thriving young people. So that gets at that invest early, invest often, invest in outcomes. Accountability. So who's going to make sure the county does this stuff? The Youth Bill of Rights, and then evaluation and reporting process and implementation timeline. So those are the 9 plan recommendation areas. The CYAB, the Children and Youth Advisory Board, really exists because of the accountability recommendations around building a community advisory board to look at issues related to children, youth, and young adults. So as Tia was sharing kind of process wise, we spent a lot of time in the winter looking back. So really there's a moment in time here as we're exiting pandemic times of what's really needed right now. But we feel like it's really important to look back at what has changed and evolved, improved or not, in order to develop our new recommendations. So we spent some time looking back. There is a fairly extensive document that's available to all of you that looks back at those 9 recommendations. And then that becomes our starting place for the youth action plan looking forward. So really looking back to look forward. And to name Sankofa, really, that is a phrase from the people of Ghana to go back and fetch it. So we thought that was an important way to look at what we're doing as we move forward. So those 9 recommendation areas, there's a kind of grid list of all the things that happened in each area that we have that you can take a look at that will be embedded in the new youth action plan and this report from the spring. As I mentioned, Best Starts came right after that, as has the Puget Sound Taxpayer Accountability Account. There's new funding streams supporting these things. And some of the app is really to lay out the next 10 years now to ensure that we continue to fund and continue to make progress where we have, and then pay attention to areas that we need more progress. There has been a lot in the original YAP around the county's internal processes and equity issues within the county, internal structural improvements. So we want to continue to make headway where contracting, for instance, is more equitable now. There is more access for small CBOs to access dollars than there were previously, where you had to have a huge fundraising arm in order to even write a grant to the county. A lot has shifted that we want to continue progress on, and there's still a lot of progress to be made. So that's just a little bit more on the background. And then I think giving it back to Tia. Oh, actually, let me do this one too. So ratifying the Youth Bill of Rights. So thanks so much to the young leaders here at the CYAB, as well as other young people that were involved over the last 3 years, really, in developing the new Youth Bill of Rights that's before council right now to actually get ratified. So hopefully that will be adopted this fall. And those 10 declarations will then be embedded within the new youth action plan. So actions being taken by council currently on that front, which is kind of the last original youth action plan recommendation that needed really to be acted upon. Now I'm giving it back to Tia around emergent themes.
Thanks, Jess. So the youth action plan, as we started this process, it was really important for us to go out and to really kind of pound the pavement. We called it our tour, where we shared about the youth action plan and its original document, but really wanted to elevate the importance of the update. And in that update, there were some emerging themes that rose to the surface. And so stabilizing resources and basic needs, maternal wellness, childcare, behavioral health, strengthening, stabilizing community-based organizations, increasing youth voice, increased parent and family input, and ending youth incarceration as it exists. And as you look at these themes, you'll see that they're not new themes. They're not new issues of concern, and they didn't necessarily become their own new recommendations. You'll see them woven in many of the recommendations that already existed. The only theme, that did become its own recommendation was the strengthening and stabilizing community-based organizations, which we thought was worthy of having its own recommendation, as it continues to be important for capacity building and strengthening those organizations to continue to serve. And so just want to reiterate that these were themes that are woven throughout the look back document, the now draft of the youth action plan, and also it continues to ensure that we're accountable and that we're doing exactly what we need to do in regards to strengthening our families and ensuring that community voice is centered in this process. And we can go to the next slide. And so as a part of that process, it was really essential that we came to you all as a governing body, as the Children Youth Advisory Board, that we were able to receive your impact as well. And so this is just a snapshot of some of the feedback that you gave us not so long ago with some of the questions that we asked. What are the priorities and recommendations for the next 5 to 10 years? And really wanted to ensure that we were able to go to community, that we were able to talk to young people, but we were able to also involve folks that are supporting the system, that are serving community in different capacities. And so this is just kind of a picture of some of the feedback that you gave us. And these are also the essential questions that we asked you when we were here last. And so we're excited for you all to see the work that has emerged from our process, and excited to keep it going. All right. So this is a snapshot of the updated recs for 2025 to 2035. And so most of the recs are the same, but we combined 7 and 9, which was accountability and implementation. Recommendation 9 was really about ensuring that there was a governing body that ensured that the youth action plan was implemented. And so we were able to collapse those recommendations into one. So this is an update and not entirely a new plan. So we wanted to ensure that these recommendations, I would say, were expanded and became more robust, and were definitely informed by all that has taken place in the last decade since the original youth action plan. And so again, recommendation 9 is strengthening CBOs in the CBO ecosystem. And so most of the other recommendations deepened on community, like I stated, but it was important that we had that strengthening CBOs became its own recommendation about became its own recommendation as well. And then strengthening and stabilizing families is dense. Well, we wanted to make sure that we stated that before you had a chance to look at them. We've been calling it the kitchen sink just because there's so much important measures that need to happen, ensuring that families and youth and community have exactly what they need to be happy, healthy, safe, and thriving. And so you'll see a lot of the emergent themes woven into strengthening and stabilizing families. And so just wanted to give you a heads up that that's the recommendation, kind of with the most dot points underneath that inform and expand what it is that we're calling for King County to do on behalf of community. We can go to the next slide. All right. And so we want to review the process for the retreat. I'm gonna kick it back to you, Jess, and let you go.
Great. So what Carrie sent out this afternoon is like a 4.5-page high-level summary of the different recommendations within each of the 9 recommendation areas. Each of those recommendation areas has like 2 to 4 to 5 pages of background written about that thing. So for equity and social justice, there's 3 or 4 pages that talks about the kind of where the county's been for the last 10 years and areas the county still needs to focus on, and then a little bit more detail about each recommendation. So what you have is a very high level summary at the retreat, and hopefully by Friday afternoon in the board packet before the retreat, you'll get the longer version of these recommendations. And what we'll ask each, basically it'll be broken into subcommittees at the retreat, is to focus on 2 of those recommendations, but it'll be more than just your like 3 or 4 high level recommendations. You'll have more of the background there. So the entire simplified recommendations to reference, you'll have those. And then what we're hoping for is this is really a high level review. What's entirely missing or just does not sit right with you when you read through some of this? What resonates is a super solid recommendation, like, yes, we can get behind this. And then what we are asking for is for each subcommittee to then give us generally, do you feel in agreement with these recommendations? So that's what we'll be asking for at the retreat in the review process. We are also going back to when the original youth action plan was written, there were very few kind of experts within the county around different areas. Now there are behavioral health departments. There are folks really focused on equity and social justice. There's folks focused on doing this work day in and day out. So we'll also be getting another review from internal county staff through September. So that's really what we're going to be looking at. We then are hoping to be able to get all this feedback from you ideally by September 27th, so we can really synthesize it. Some of the subcommittees may not meet till after that, and if it's a little bit after that, that's okay, but we want to have as complete of a draft, including your input, by the October meeting, which then gives the CYAB a month to review, to hopefully be ready then to vote to approve in November. So that's kind of our path forward. Subcommittees may be able to like read through and be like, oh, this is exactly what I would have written if I was doing that. This is perfect. Thumbs up, stamp of approval on Tuesday. Like that's the dream, right? That we've done a good enough job. I'm guessing that we'll have some more feedback than that. So we'll have y'all have a little bit of extra time to then give us that feedback for the different recommendations. Our current plan is that young leaders will have accountability, which got merged in with evaluation, and the Youth Bill of Rights. So those two areas to review. And that is intentional in looking at how does Youth Bill of Rights and the potential development of a youth commission also become a new accountability factor for the youth action plan, which really could empower young people to have a little bit more power within the system. For youth justice, we have equity and social justice and stopping the school to prison pipeline, those two category areas. For PASTA, we have strengthening and stabilizing families, which again is this very dense one. And then the invest often, invest early, invest often, invest in outcomes, which is less dense. Community engagement, we have you on busting silos and strengthening community-based organizations. And then evaluation can have folks that are most interested in that, and or folks that get through their recommendations most seamlessly. Take a look at that. So that's our plan. I'm going to stop sharing screen and just open it up for questions. So really like around the process, does this sound doable? Any kind of questions at this stage? And then we're going to walk through that 4.5 pager quickly with some of the like kind of areas that we still have kind of big questions for everyone.
I just have a quick question. With getting the feedback that helped you come up with the emerging themes, those interactions with community, were they like focus group type meetings? Were they just one-on-one? Were they a variety of different types of engagements? What was that like, getting that feedback?
That's a great question. So mainly we were going to places where people were already gathered rather than having it like y'all come meetings.
Cool.
So trying to get out to both regionally, get some coverage around the county, as well as kind of issue area specific groups. And what we really wanted to do was honor a lot of the community processes that have already happened in the last couple of years. So the care and closure process, the Youth Bill of Rights process that involved over 2,000 young people giving input, the community safety and well-being plan. So we tried to really kind of pull in a lot of the community feedback that the county had been asking for a few years and start there to say like, hey, are we getting this right? Rather than starting from scratch. So it's mainly been group meetings, lots of sticky notes on chart paper and or Jamboards, as well as some one-on-one conversations where more kind of nuance was needed. Tia, anything to add there?
Yeah, I just also wanted to say that it was important for us to, like what you stated, to honor the processes that had already been active, and that there's so much work that the county has already done to reach out to community. And we also wanted to also say that feedback fatigue is a real thing. And that is one of the concerns that came up for community. They're saying okay, we've told you this before. And so one of the themes that we had that was kind of at the forefront of our process is, are we getting this right? And so we wanted to make sure those emergent themes were, these are things that you've already said. This is how we've interpreted them. This is how we synthesized this information and compiled it. And this is basically us showing back to you, reflecting back, like, we want to make recommendations that really honor your feedback and that really honor the process. And so that's just one thing I wanted to add to this conversation, is that we wanted to ensure that community knew that not only did we respect the process that they had already participated in, but that we wanted to ensure that we were reflecting back what they've already told us, and that we would be accountable and letting them know what we did with it as well. That was another theme that came up where community wanted to know. So are you going to let us know what happens? Because so many processes seems as if, they just disappear into the ether somewhere. And so that's why we're really excited about the Youth Action Plan, because we'll have recommendations that have existed before that are an update that really represent how community has been a part of it. I see hands. I'm not sure who was
Go to
next.
Jack. I think Jack was first.
Okay.
Thanks. On the feedback question, so we're going to go into meeting next week. We're going to talk about this. We're going to come out with recommendations. Where do those recommendations go, and how will they not be acted on and weighed against all of the feedback y'all have already had?
Well, so what you all are seeing, the only feedback we have so far on this list of recommendations now. So really a lot of the feedback was like, behavioral health is an emergent theme. We know we need to focus on it. How should we do that? That was what we were collecting through the spring. So now all of that feedback is what you'll see in the recommendations. So Tia and I have been synthesizing the community feedback, input from county staff. Jen Tanaka and Sheila Capistani have seen the very, very first draft of this. Their feedback's included now in what you all are seeing. But ultimately, these recommendations, with your approval by hopefully November, are coming from you. So this feedback here, CYAB is essential feedback to get to once hopefully we get this to a place where you all approve it, ideally in November, then it goes to the executive. The executive's shop will review, will probably find some passive voice and other things that they might have feedback on. There might be some shifts, and then hopefully basically with the recommendations and intent goes to council and likely won't be acted on until spring, by the time it goes through all of those paces.
That's very
all right.
helpful. Thanks.
Okay. No problem, Jack. Thank you. Dr. Felder?
Joy and happiness, everyone. First of all, I want to say that my feeling says you guys really have done a good job. It feels comprehensive to me. And of course, when I get on the subcommittee, we'll probably dig deeper so that we can say it feels good too. My question is that often when we give these recommendations, we don't necessarily talk about the implementation. And when I look at the list of recommendations or proposed recommendations, it feels as if many of these areas are intertwined. So interdisciplinary actions are required. So it makes me wonder, when we have this retreat, is there an opportunity to give recommendations about how it should be implemented? What areas of the recommendation should be targeted? I'll give you an example. Preschool, the state has standards that says this is what prepares all children for kindergarten. So when I look at that, will I have an understanding that yes, this recommendation is tied to this outcome or standard, which implies that some of these areas we don't necessarily have information about what's typical for a strategy. So I'm wondering how we give these recommendations in relationship to strategies that are aligned to how a project manager evaluates all this work, so that we have some sense that progress is occurring as a result of these recommendations. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
I think so.
Okay, good.
And the level of strategy is probably not where someone will be able to take the youth action plan and implement. So it's going to be more about like kind of guardrails and making sure that that in the biggest picture, young people are prioritized as the county goes through changes in budget or changes in different things. Hopefully this provides some guardrails or kind of parameters, goals for the next time Best Starts for Kids is renewed, which is just a few years away now, and assuming it will be renewed. So this is providing some like, make sure behavioral health. I'm seeing the link that Rita provided too around mental health and well-being. So this is providing some of that kind of overlay versus an implementation plan. So this is really not like, here's the funding stream. Next month, we're going out with this much money to make sure this happens. It's a broader 10-year goals, kind of 10-year. I don't even necessarily want to say goals, because there's not a number attached of how much money or how many kids will be served by it, but really what are the needs to make sure that we're focusing on. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah. You know, my interest is whether or not a work plan follows the recommendations.
Absolutely. I would say also that a part of when you talk about the work plan, Dr. Felder, I know you were a part of the community safety and well-being plan as well. And so you were a part of those set of recommendations, and you're going to chime in on this process as well. When I think about the youth action plan, I think it was important for us to say, because it's a policy frame, it's the foundation that King County is always pointing back to, saying, this is what we said we were going to do for children, youth, and family. And so anytime any policy is put forward, any initiative, any type of funding, this document should be consulted and it should be prioritized to inform what we do next. And so I agree with Jessica with saying that there's not specific funding or strategy saying that 2025, we're ready to roll out and do this. But when there is funding, when there is a plan, when there is an initiative, this is what we consult. This is our document that says, this is what we said we wanted to do for children, youth, and family. This is what we said we were going to prioritize. And this is what informs all our next steps in regards to what we said.
You know what really make me happy? If we change the verb from should to will.
Will. Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right.
Tia, I think we've had that conversation, right?
Yes, we have.
Can we say will? Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Felder. Any other questions before kind of, again, overwhelming too many recommendations?
Jessica, I'm actually going to recommend that you move on.
Great.
And then people can email you questions in the meantime, because you only have 15 minutes left in the meeting and you've got a lot to cover. So
okay.
Not 15 or so. We're not at a hard stop at an hour, but I would recommend moving on if you can.
Okay.
Yeah.
Councilmember Trout, is yours quick, or should we save it?
I just wanted to know, my dogs were barking because somebody came to the door, and I didn't hear the last part of September 27 and October, and then we're going to vote on November. Could you cover that later?
Okay, perfect. We'll wrap it up with the next steps.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'm gonna share screen again and look at, you have this document in your, so this is more an orientation to the document than an expectation to like deeply understand what's in here in these next 15 minutes. So again, each of these recommendations has a few pages of background to say why these recommendations. We also began with the original youth action plans recommendations. So the recommendation areas are the ones, equity and social justice here. That was the original recommendations. These are updated from those originals. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. You lose the category, but hopefully be able to see it a little bit better. So really big picture. Tia, do you want to just go back and forth? We'll do like 1, 2,
Absolutely.
3.
Yes. Yeah.
Really high level though. So really looking at eliminating bias, institutional racism in government departments, especially as regards to children, youth, and families. We want young people to have agency, to be able to have access to decision makers. We want to name targeted universalism. So as we think about focusing on persistent disparities, how do we ensure that we really focus on the strategies that are going to be best to serve young people furthest from opportunity, to ensure that everyone can grow up happy, healthy, safe, and thriving. And the newest ones, we have a few things that are highlighted in bright blue that are kind of ones that we're still working on and need to flesh out further. But we really want to focus on a belonging strategy within King County. So a lot of times the kind of result of diversity, equity, and inclusion is that people feel a sense of belonging. So how do we build that? So that's an area we want to dig into a little bit more, is why it's highlighted in blue. Okay. So feel free to write anything in the chat, but again, I think this one is stopping the school to prison pipeline, or this one and stopping the school to prison pipeline will go to the Youth Justice Subcommittee on next Tuesday to really dig into. But if you have any initial thoughts, feel free to drop them in the chat. And I'm going to give at least one to Tia. So this is strengthening and stabilizing families, children, youth, and young adults. And again, this is the super dense one because there's a number of really how young people and families are served fall into this one versus how government operates.
Yes, and so what was important too that I want to reference is that the Youth Bill of Rights really informed this document as well. And so you'll see again a number of the similar themes woven throughout these recommendations or this summary document. And so one of them being basic needs, so access to nutritious and culturally relevant food. Again, I remember hearing about this and it being shared with us through the Community Safety and Wellbeing Plan. Housing stability, livable wage employment, also initiatives that offer second chance employment. Again, not new themes. I thought it was really great. There was a youth who made it when I was able to go to Covington, wanted to ensure that there was digital access as well, ensuring digital equity. And so you're seeing Wi-Fi. It's one thing to say we need a job. How do I get there? How am I able to do job searches and things of that nature? And so basic needs is one of the recommendations you'll see here. We can scroll up, Jessica, again in blue. These are questions that we have to you all. And so exploring expanding basic income. And so looking at how we're able to provide funding to folks that are able to determine how they use that funding to best serve them, whether it's getting gas or needing to finance something in their lives without kind of this regimented oversight. And so wanted to unpack that with you all with the basic income. And then ensuring the well-being of pregnant and parenting folks. And so again, numbers of recommendations you see listed A through C here about healthcare and anti-racist preconception care and health education. And so there was a number of we received a number of feedback about this as well. And we can keep going up, improving access and affordability in childcare. And so these have a set of recommendations underneath them. I also want to share that you see the lettering, but within that lettering, many of these recommendations have bullets underneath them that inform exactly what we are asking for or calling King County to do. And so they're even more specific than this. But again, this is the quick and dirty version to make sure that you have eyes on this. Improving behavioral health access and supports. We received a lot of feedback about the ways healthcare is provided and delivered, and that it's culturally relevant, and that it ensures that there's access, and that it centers folks who have a variety of needs, not just behavioral health, but also healthcare in general. And so that we're also able to expand what healthcare looks like. So that's why you see recovering and healing here. And improving access to expanded learning and youth development. And again, this is blued because we want to hear more feedback from you all about what would it look like to increase family engagement. And you came to mind again, Dr. Felder, that intergenerational resource sharing. I know that you wanted to prioritize that elders' voice as well. And so that continues to be in my brain as we start to shape these recommendations. I think we have just one more section here. And so stopping the school to prison pipeline. I know we're playing.
You want to take that one?
Sure. Stopping the school to prison pipeline. Again, if you don't know my background, I started with the Zero Youth Detention Project, turned to Regional Gun Violence Project, which ZYD was sunsetted and care and closure was lifted up. And so these set of recommendations really speak to the ways that we want to ensure that there's investment across the full continuum to serve youth who have found themselves involved with the legal system. I also wanted to ensure that that we highlight that there should be a partnership, although that King County doesn't have any authority over school districts. We know that it's important for there to be a partnership and ensuring that there's restorative justice practices and that we're able to partner with schools and school districts to lift up alternative forms of discipline. You see that there's a gun violence recommendation here. We know that a number of young people who are detained in the juvenile in the actual juvenile facility are there as a result of a crime involving a firearm. And so we want to ensure that those care and closure recommendations, you may have just recently seen the article that it was decided that the youth jail would remain open until at least 2028, but the call is to implement these recommendations to ensure that there's expansive opportunities to help young people be accountable, but also to heal. And so we're also calling for the raise in the youth age. And so I know I'm going through this bit by bit, but I was able to consult with a colleague, and it was important for us to use criminal system involved. And also that we wanted to highlight that there are a number of people who have been impacted by the criminal legal system, and also that includes families and siblings, and that also there are youth who are on the cusp, and that's why we're using the term vulnerable. And he also thought that was appropriate. And so this is, again, a set of recommendations that were updated from the original Youth Action Plan, but are more informed and more robust, that include the initiatives and the work that's underway to ensure that there's a full continuum of services for young people who find themselves in these situations across the pipeline. I'll kick it back to you, Jess.
Okay. Everybody breathe. Blink your eyes.
Right. Stand up.
All right.
I want to say this too. We know that this is a lot of information to look at. We are trying to get better at like condensing this, Carrie, forgive us. And so we are trying to get better at making this more palatable. It's still a lot of content to look at them. That's
and those areas that we covered first, that Tia covered with all of number 2 and 3, like those are really, I'd say, the bulk of the like programmatic related areas. And a lot of the rest of this really is more focused on how the county does business. So this next one, number 4, is around busting silos and being better together. So a huge change at the county is that there is a children, youth, and young adult division, and there still needs to be better mechanisms to collaborate internally within King County, with local municipalities, and with the state. So really thinking about collective impact, thinking about understanding who's doing what are the different roles, investing in strengthening existing and emerging backbone leaders and organizations that build capacity, that lead. So really, how is there a robust, okay, I'm gonna stop adding more words, investing and strengthening backbone leaders. looking at a children's cabinet, that is where government officials can be collaborating, getting to same vision for young people. And then this comes up regularly, is having an integrated referral system and resource database across the network to understand who's offering what, who's doing what, and potentially even to have a warm handoff to get young people referred and attached to different programs. This has come up in a number of different areas. So it came up in basic needs. It's come up in stopping the school to prison pipeline. It's come up in behavioral health. We put it in busting silos because it really is one of those things that's across all these different areas. So that's what that one is. Data, I'll do data too, and then give it back to you, Tia. So within the county, how does the county continue to be better at reflecting communities in the data, having communities own the data, and prioritizing community-based partnerships and relationships with BIPOC folks, having resources to make sure that both the county and communities and organizations can collect, use, and improve their data practices, to have a culture of learning and accountability, looking at co-designed processes, and mitigating harm and bias in interpretation and reporting, improving cross-sector data coordination, and then really articulating King County strategies around system level change. So not just our young people as individuals doing better, but how do we know the system's doing better? Okay, back to you, Tia.
Great. I wanted to just highlight that the invest early, invest often, and invest in outcomes is language from our Best Starts for Kids, but also is language that appeared in the first Youth Action Plan. And so much of what you see here is a continuation of what was set forth for the original Youth Action Plan in 2014. And so continuing to invest in activities that have positive child and youth development and prevention and early intervention, continuing to invest in services for children and youth and families and young adults based on promising practices, building and evaluation practices that focus on continuous improvement and identified outcomes, and also looking across the county at agencies and departments and external partners, not just locally, but local jurisdictions and service providers to identify gaps in funding by geography and issue area, and work to resource underinvested areas. And so you're seeing these recommendations in comparison to the ones previously. And these are just more, I would say, more detailed and more robust, but also asking for us to just continue the good work that has already been happening. And then lastly, with this particular recommendation is ensuring sustained new resources for the continuum of services for children, youth, and families and well-being. And so when you look at these recommendations, they might seem like really broad strokes, but again, there's dot points. I'm trying to change my language. There are dot points underneath each recommendation that ensures that it's even more specific in how we want to ensure sustained investments for children, youth, and family. You want to do 7 and 9, Jess?
Sure. So again, 7 was about accountability and 9 was about implementing the YAP. So they're very related. So we have combined those. And really it is that the CYAB and the county have shared accountability for the implementation of the Youth Action Plan recommendations and renewal. Setting forth plans to create a King County Youth Commission as recommended by the King County Youth Bill of Rights. So that's a recommendation for the Youth Bill of Rights, but it becomes an accountability mechanism now. So that recommendation is moved to accountability. Ensure that the Children, Youth, and Young Adult Division Director continues to liaise between the CYAB, the King County Executive, and King County Council on the implementation. And then reviewing progress to date of the Youth Action Plan every 5 years, so that there'd be a review process and an update. And then if there are significant changes in the county's capacity to invest in children, youth, and families through levies or other funding streams, that the YAP would be reviewed for policy alignment and prioritization.
There's 2 recommendations for the Youth Bill of Rights, and I am excited about recommendation A, which is utilize the King County Youth Bill of Rights as a formal guide when considering policies and budgetary decisions that impact children and youth. And so the Youth Bill of Rights becoming a formal document that informs decision-making from here on out, which is really exciting because all that work and all that time and effort will really manifest with young people having some say and having some power in decision-making when it comes to policy that impacts them. And then also calling for an update for the Youth Bill of Rights every 5 years, again, ensuring that it stays current, that it stays informed, and that it really reflects the times, and that youth continue to have that agency and participating in government in a real authentic way, where we're not just checking off a box saying, what do we think youth think, or how do they feel, but that we have a guiding document that's utilized in how we create policy from here on out. And so, good job, Carrie. And
Okay, and then our
CBOs. Go ahead, Jess.
Our last one. So this is new, and community-based organizations, nonprofits, like, are expected to implement most of the other recommendations, and yet there wasn't really much focus on ensuring the health of the nonprofit ecosystem. So, increasing the ease of access for community-based organizations to apply for and receive funding across King County departments, providing low barrier capacity building support to community-based organizations. The one that is in blue here is to fully fund contracts, including supporting the full cost of services provided by nonprofits, including wages and benefits. I see you clapping, Jerry. That one is in blue because it's going to be sensitive, and we're going to need to like make sure that we've got good backup on what fully fund means and how to really advocate for that. And then to support the ecosystem of children and youth serving organizations through intermediaries, resource coordination, coalition, and partnering with philanthropy and other public funders to ensure sector strength and sustainability. So that one relates to cross-sector investing silos. But that's it. That's our 40 or something. We haven't counted the total.
We haven't, have we? No.
Draft recommendations. So hold up on 1 to 10, like how you're feeling right in this moment about the CYAB recommending these things to the county. Like, where are we? Are you like ready to vote approve a 10? Are you at a 6, 7? I'm seeing some like 8s to 10s.
Yeah.
9.
This is good.
Okay, this is looking good. I see a 7. Okay, so we've got some work to do. But for a first review, seeing lots of nods and smiles. So that feels good. This is really like, it is early. So even though we have a short timeline, it's early in this all being in one place together. So we look forward to getting deep input next week and then really massaging. Tia and I keep scheduling grinds where we're just like in the document together at the same time and taking input and feedback. So we're going to do a lot of that throughout September as we continue to get input and feedback.
Yeah. We really appreciate you all joining us for this session and taking this kind of time to get prepped for next week as we do a deeper dive. We're proud of the recommendations. We know that they need some refinement and some fine tuning, and we welcome your fine tooth comb to go over them. But we really tried to capture what community has been saying, what system folks have been saying, and trying to marry and integrate those ideas together, and using our own backgrounds and expertise to really represent how we can serve our communities best. And so this has been a laborious process, but one that's been enjoyable. And so thank you for continuing to partner with us, being the oversight, but also calling for this update because it was needed, and it helps to ensure that King County does exactly what it says it's going to do.
All right.
Are you guys open to a few more questions and next steps? Do people have time for that? Lisa, what do you think?
Yeah, if folks can stay on just for a few more minutes so we can wrap up.
Great. And just the question that Yolanda had asked. So we'll get your direct input next Tuesday if you have it, I think, ready to share. And you can take away your recommendation areas with your subcommittee for a few more weeks to synthesize that input and feedback. And again, especially at the like, what's totally missing, what's totally inaccurate. And do you feel ready to say like, these are in pretty good shape. So that's going to be the level of input we want.
Okay.
Ideally by September 27th or so we can really take that input and get it into the next draft that you'll get at the October board meeting. And at the October board meeting at the latest, but then knowing that there'll still be a few more tweaks before the draft that you'll be voting on in November. So that's timeline. And we are getting feedback from other groups as well during this month.
Great. That answered my question. Thank you very much.
Terrific. I feel like I saw a different hand first and then I see Jerry's. Did somebody else raise and put down?
It was me, but I put it in the chat.
Okay. Jerry.
I was just wondering, it's the King County Mid is doing listening sessions regarding behavioral health, and I didn't know if we reached out to them, see if they would share their info. They've had some larger meetings with lots of behavioral health folks, so it might help in the initiative too.
That's great. I can't remember, Tia. Margaret Sukup, we had some folks from public health and behavioral health that gave us input, but we can make sure that we're crosswalking with the actual folks at the Mid.
Yeah, it would be Laura Smith. She's been doing the outreach for the Mid stuff. Yeah. And Margaret does the youth advisory board stuff.
Great.
Perfect.
Thank you. And there's a number of public health has a new strategic plan out. So there's a lot of different processes. So trying to like thread the needle on saying enough that we're kind of it's complementary and not contradictory what's in the youth action plan versus another plan that might be more hyper focused on one of our areas. So again, there'd be more detail in a childcare plan exclusively, but how do we pull in the highlights and amplify what's missing within the app? Thanks, Jerry.
And do we have a
Jessica, Debbie's question was, is there an intention to keep the number of recommendations down to just 9?
I was just getting ready to respond to that.
Awesome.
Yeah, not necessarily. I think that we thought it was kind of serendipitous that it became 9 because it was 10 with the adding of the community-based organizations, supporting community-based organizations, but with the collapsing of 7 and 9, it went back to 9. We did set forth to ensure that we encompassed all the feedback, and a lot of what happened was that much of what we were able to uncover was woven into recommendation area 2. And so it just worked out that way. I think we didn't want to overwhelm the process and change it because it's an update. It's not like we were scratching that and starting over. And so I think that's the short answer. No, it didn't have to be 9. It did work out that way. We would definitely add more recommendations if we see, even in this process, that, we were missing something. But it was important that we honored the original recs and that we would update the original recommendations to reflect what's being called for now.
Okay.
Well, it sounds like we're good with questions. And then thank you guys so much, Tia and Jessica. This was super helpful. And so I think you hit the mark on making sure that we can have some time to know what we're reviewing over this next week and be able to come prepared next week for the retreat. And so thank you guys so much for taking the time to get us the information that will help us show up and do the best work we can next week together. So appreciate that.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome. Carrie, it looks like we just have some quick reminders and then we'll be ready to adjourn. So we've got, do you want me to turn that over to you to do, or are you good with me? Okay, thank you.
I'll take it. Yeah, thank you, Lisa. So, and just want to thank Lisa for pinch hitting. Both Charmaine and Ariana were on vacation. So Lisa stepped up to do facilitate this meeting as one of the co-chairs of one of our subcommittees. We always want to look to our leadership to have opportunities like this. So thank you, Lisa. You did a wonderful job today. So appreciate you doing that. Just quickly, those of you who don't know that we're in person next Tuesday, we're in person next Tuesday. So we are at Foster Golf Links at Billy Barrows. The meeting will begin at 4. I know some of you don't get off work till after 4. Please get there as soon as you can because you will miss out. There's a lot packed into the agenda. We've had to move a few things around and there's some wiggle room, but not a whole lot. So as much as you can do to be there at 4, if you can't get there until 6, it is what it is. And we'll just be happy to see you. Dinner will be served promptly at 5. So hopefully we'll be able to leave some, we'll have dessert as well. So hopefully there'll be some food by the time you get there. And then Young Leaders Coffee, super excited. The Young Leaders Coffee is back September 28th at Woods Coffee in Lincoln Square in Bellevue. The young leaders have been working on this for a long time. Super excited. I put the calendar appointment out. Quite a few of you said that you were going to attend or that you were a maybe, but this is an important event. We want to prioritize our young leaders of the CYAB and what they're trying to do around building the culture of this board. This is something that's been around for a long while and it's very intentional. It's not just something fun to do, but it's an opportunity to build and strengthen relationships within the board. So I recommend that everybody take a look at that email and calendar appointment and then to reach out to Grace or Eden, our co-chairs of the young leaders, if you have any questions. That's it for me.
All right, wonderful. Well, any other final roundtable comments before we get ready to adjourn? Right, fantastic. Thank you guys all so much for your time tonight. We'll go ahead and adjourn this meeting at 7:11. And we'll see you next Tuesday in person. Thank you, everyone.
Bye, everybody.